us in a minute, all right?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, everybody, it's 7 o'clock, so we will adjourn the, or convene the meeting. Yeah, we can go home. So, hello, we're here tonight. There's a request for conditional use pursuant to the Huntington Township zoning ordinance. Under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Code, the municipalities can make certain exceptions to their zoning ordinance in the form of conditional uses as long as the ordinance is set forth express standards and criteria governing such exceptions. Conditional use must be granted by the governing body where there's compliance with the specific requirements set forth in the ordinance, provided it's not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. The municipality's plan code requires that we hold a hearing, and at the hearing, obviously, there's information presented, and in addition to the applicant, certain people can acquire party status and participate in the hearing. I'll explain that in a little bit. So if the standards are all met, they can attach reasonable safeguards. Hence the conditional use nature of it is there could be conditions attached to the approval to safeguard the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Now, with respect to being a party, anybody that has a reasonable interest, so like adjoining landowners would be a pretty much given that you would be able to get party status. And to have party status means that you would be able to make questions of the applicant and whoever the applicant calls to testify on their behalf. You'd be able to present your own testimony, and you'd also be entitled to a copy of the decision whenever that is actually sent out. So for now, is there anybody other than the applicant that wants to obtain party status or have questions about that?
What is party status? What is it specific? I'm adjacent. I'm the adjacent property. Wow.
Okay, could you state your name?
My name's James Waldron,
Okay.
313 Whitechurch. What is party status? What's that mean?
So if you think of it kind of in the terms of like a lawsuit, you have a plaintiff and a defendant, or like co-defendant. So you'd be like one of the parties to this hearing, to a certain extent, that allows you to. So the applicant's going to have various people talk, I assume, and then after they talk, you could ask them questions based on what they said, and then after they rest their case, then you could call a witness in your behalf, or you could testify on your own as to what it is that you think about the project. And then additionally, you could get a copy, well, you will get a copy of the decision when it is sent out. And then once you get a copy of that, you have the ability to appeal pursuant to the statutory procedures.
Okay, thank you.
So with that being said, do you want to be a party?
If it gets crazy, yeah.
We'll take that as a yes. So it's James Baldwin, right?
Yeah.
Did you say 311 what church?
313. The old Bosserman place. Cletus is a ghost there. We got to take care of Cletus the ghost.
All right. Anybody else want to be a party? All right. With that being said, we'll move on. So a couple things with respect to the hearing. After I finish here tonight, the zoning officer will provide a little bit of input about the project. The applicants will then present their case. Mr. Waldron as a party can then make questions and present testimony that he wants. And then after that, there can be some brief public comment if anybody just wants to make a comment who hasn't requested to be a party. We won't let it continue on if it's repetitive and not really relevant to the matter. And then Then the supervisors, if they wish, because it's a quasi judicial proceeding, can convene in an executive session to discuss making a decision on the matter. And just for everybody that's going to talk, we're taking this down in a stenographic record, and therefore, if only one person talks at a time, that makes it easier for her, and she'll start going like this. That's when you know you're in trouble. All right, so anybody who's going to testify, so Mr. Waldron, this, I would say raise your hand now, and anybody else for the applicant that's going to testify, please raise your right hand to be sworn in. All right, so we're going to do it in mass, and I'll go one by one to verify that you do. So do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing shall be the truth?
Yes.
Mr. Waldron?
Yes. Chris Hoover, yes.
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 Don Lobo, yes.
Yes.
You good? Okay. All right, then at this time, then the applicant can go ahead and proceed with the presentation of their case.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer, and good evening to the board. My name is Chris Hoover with Hoover Engineering, the civil engineering consultant. Accompanying me this evening is John Rainville. He is the broker realtor who's involved in the land transaction. Adjacent to him is Jeff Fortuna, who's with LCDM, who will be the tenant of the proposed facility if we're successful. And then beside him is Lynn Lobal, who is the managing partner of My Three Girls LLC, who will ultimately possibly become the property owner of the site. The way we would like to handle our presentation this evening is allow me to do a brief description of the subject property, and then I would like to turn it over to Jeff Fortuna, who provides the board a description of what LCDM does and what would be proposed in this particular site. And then we'll move on to sheet 2 of our plan set, which kind of shows the proposed expansions and changing of the site to accommodate what LCDM does.
Mr. Hoover, if I may interject, I forgot that I was going to.
I was wondering about that. I'll defer to the zoning officer.
I even verified with him before the hearing that I was going to do it. And I forgot.
All right, well, I just want to call your attention to the folders you have at the head table. And those folders contain a copy of the application from the applicant for the conditional use. There's also a copy of the zoning ordinance, section 26-1141, which is the description of, in the zoning ordinance for manufacturing, the conditions for a manufacturing operation in the township by the zoning ordinance. And I'm sure those items that are listed there, I believe there's 6, will be addressed in the testimony here this evening. Also, there is the copy of the ad that appeared in the newspaper, and that was advertised on the 15th and 22nd of this month in the Gettysburg Times. In addition, I've got a copy of the posting notice that's on the property at 255 White Church Road. And I have a copy of the receipt where they paid their $400 fee for this hearing. And I got copies of 8 letters that I mailed to the adjacent landowners. And I understand one of them didn't get it, but she knows about the hearing.
Well, she got it tonight.
All right, she got it tonight. So, that's all I got. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Hoover.
All right, back to you.
Thank you, sir. This particular property, the board I'm sure is familiar with. It's located at 255 White Church Road. It was before the board in a prior review and approval process for a recreational sports facility. I owner at the time was Sawmill LLC, and as a result of that prior review and submission, and through Some other issues, the applicant had made a request to the township to erect a structure on that particular property. It's our understanding that that structure was permitted as a storage building and not as a part of the land development plan. And that particular building, consisting of 15,000 square feet, is shown on what is page 1 of the exhibit, as well as on the overhead screen. It is located in the northwest corner of the property, immediately adjacent to White Church Road, as well as the adjacent property of Mr. I'm sorry, sir, what's your name?
Walden.
Thank you, Walden. There also on the property is an existing well that was installed at the time the building was constructed, a gravel driveway access, and some additional gravel parking area was installed as part of the building. The site is a challenging site in the fact that there's an unnamed tributary that kind of bisects the middle of the property in a west to east direction. There's some associated wetlands with that. And that's about it as far as the general conditions of the property as exist. As I said, My Three Girls LLC is intending to purchase the property and move LCDM as a tenant. LCDM is a agricultural and granary equipment machinery company. I'm going to let Jeff Fortuna basically provide a brief description of what they do, as well as any type of impacts relative to things such as traffic, number of vehicles, noise, odors, those kinds of things. So Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So LCDM, we design and manufacture parts for grain systems. Slide gauge transitional pieces, all sheet metal pieces. Those pieces are fabricated off-site and brought to us, and we do final assembly. Those parts can range from a small UPS box to a 4 foot by 8 foot skid that can go on a flatbed truck. As far as employees, right now, 10 employees that work in our division of the company, and as far as some key points as far as what may impact that area, as far as noise and traffic. I know EV Mulch is across the street from this property, and I could probably say that they would probably have more traffic than we would. We're probably talking for us 1, maybe 2 trucks a day, so maybe 5 trucks in and out, 5 to 10 trucks in and out, in a week's time. As far as noise, that would basically be all contained into the warehouse. We don't really do anything outside except load trucks. As far as that, anything to add to that?
Well, I'd like to add, kind of to give you a better feel for who your neighbor is. I'm president of LQ Corporation. LQ Corporation is the parent company of LCDM, TAM Systems. TAM Systems is a contractor. We build facilities that store, condition, or improve grain. So anytime grain comes off the farm or it's stored on the farm, but we build the facilities that flour mills, feed mills, granaries, soybean crushing facilities, big part of our industry right now. We're right now corporately located in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, South Mountain Road. LCDM is sharing a building with us, which doesn't work real well. When I say us, our contract division. We have a distribution center in Missouri for the Midwest. So you're not going to see major traffic serving the entire country. LCDM services the entire country and some international customers. But what we do in this facility is assemble and ship a finished product throughout the country or in truckloads to our distribution center in Missouri. So anything we do has to do with food. It's not the pre-engineered components that we build, it's the transitional components that fall between pre-engineered pieces. You know, kind of, you look at a water line and say, oh, you got a 90-degree elbow. On the piece of pipe, we build the 90-degree elbow. We don't deal with the pipe. So that's really what LCDM is. And we have looked at trying to make them, put them in a little more flexible location than we currently are right now.
Okay, thank you, Len. Moving on to a description of what is going to be proposed on the site, I had requested that page 2 of the plan set would be the best one to look at, as well as on the overhead, page 2, would provide the public what is proposed. As we said, we're here before you for a conditional use request under section 27.804.8 of the zoning ordinance, which allows for manufacturing within your commercial industrial zone. And as such, we have to comply with the criteria that's stipulated in section 27-1141 that are the specific performance requirements for manufacturing. That being said, I would just like to go through those requirements to show how we are complying and meeting those as part of our request. But before we do that, let me take a step back. And let's just talk a little bit about page 2 of the plan set and what we're showing there. So essentially what we're showing is a large view of the overall site where the intended improvements are to happen. The existing building, as I indicated before, is 15,000 square feet, essentially 100 feet by 150. And with rezoning requirements of the manufacturing use, it actually requires a 100-foot building setback from the street line in order to comply with the manufacturing requirement. So what we're showing is basically that 100-foot setback, which of that 100-foot setback, 50 feet of it is required to be a buffer or a landscape yard area. But as you can see by looking at sheet 2, since this building was not permitted as a manufacturing use, it currently does not meet that 100-foot requirement. You can see that the front building setback is encroaching within the front plane of the building by a few feet. However, you can see that we're proposing an addition to that building consisting of approximately 18,000 square feet. And that proposed addition would comply with the required manufacturing 100-foot setback. There's also a second future building that's being shown that could possibly be 17,000 plus square feet. And again, that building would comply with the required building setback as well. To show compliance with section 27-1141, 27-1141.1 states that all manufacturing shall have a minimum lot area of 3 acres. Our particular property is 29.9 acres. The lot width at the street right-of-way line shall be a minimum of 300 feet. We're in excess of 1,200 feet of frontage along White Church Road. All buildings shall be set back at least 100 feet from a street right-of-way line. As I testified earlier, the existing building does not meet that requirement since it was not permitted as a manufacturing building. However, anything that we are proposing as far as future additions will meet that setback requirement. We will also meet the required buffering requirement that's attached to the manufacturing zone. I goes on to say that step there, 1141.4 says a buffer yard will be strictly beached. It must be located on the park site in all situations where the site adjoins a residential use. This yard shall be naturally landscaped, have no impervious coverage, and shall be used for building, parking, loading, or storage purposes. So again, we do have existing tree lines and wooded areas along most of our exterior perimeter. We can certainly supplement those if the zoning officer feels that we're not meeting the ordinance requirement. Since in essence we're fronting on 15, which would not necessarily require a buffering or a yard area, we still are proposing that to be provided in order to provide some screening to the proposed use. 1141.5 saying access shall be via an arterial or collector road. Traffic routes and exits shall be far enough from houses so that no truck noise or vibration shall be minimized. Again, we're showing, ultimately, there is an existing driveway currently on the site, in about the northern third of the property. Future plans could be that driveway would be shifted a little bit further to the south, but there are no residential homes or dwellings easily within 1,000 feet of this driveway location, either existing or proposed. And then satisfactory provision shall be made to minimize harmful or unpleasant effects, noise, odors, fumes, glare, vibration, smoke, vapors, and gases, electric emissions, and industrial waste. And I believe, as the applicant has testified, their proposed use will not create any of those things, and the items such as possibly noise and type of lighting, those will be minimized as part of this operation, just because it's kind of a low impact type of facility. Obviously, if we would be successful in getting the conditional use request, we would be back in front of you with a revised land development plan and all the other processes involved through that in order to gain the approval we need to do these expansions and parking lot improvements. Stormwater management would have to be incorporated as well. However, the applicant will ask and work with the township to perhaps get in, do some remodeling of the building, and perhaps even occupy a small portion of the building as we would be going through that review process. That, of course, would only be at the discretion and permission of the township. That being said, I don't have much more to add. Gentlemen, do you have anything else you want to offer as testimony? Seeing none, I think our presentation is concluded. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions or provide any additional answers.
Okay, so first, Mr. Waldron, do you have any questions that you want to ask?
On looking at the map, I guess, it would be just the stormwater pump, what that would do, and how you would trend it.
To the south, but there are no residential homes or dwellings easily within 1,000 feet of this driveway location, either existing or proposed. And then satisfactory provision shall be made to minimize harmful or unpleasant effects, noise, odors, fumes, glare, vibration, smoke, vapors, and gases, electric emissions, and industrial waste. And I believe, as the applicant has testified, their proposed use will not create any of those things, and the items such as possibly noise and type of lighting, those will be minimized as part of this operation, just because it's kind of a low impact type of facility. Obviously, if we would be successful in getting the conditional use request, we would be back in front of you with a revised land development plan and all the other processes involved through that in order to gain the approval we need to do these expansions and parking lot improvements. Stormwater management would have to be incorporated as well. However, the applicant will ask and work with the township to perhaps get in, do some remodeling of the building, and perhaps even occupy a small portion of the building as we would be going through that review process. That, of course, would only be at the discretion and permission of the township. That being said, I don't have much more to add. Gentlemen, do you have anything else you want to offer as testimony? Seeing none, I think our presentation is concluded. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions or provide any additional answers.
Okay, so first, Mr. Waldron, do you have any questions that you want to ask?
On looking at the map, I guess, it would be just the stormwater pump, what that would do, and how you would trend it. A stormwater pump, does that pump the water out and don't flow into the creek?
No, it actually says proposed stormwater BMP.
What's that?
That stands for best management practice. It's a glorified acronym for a stormwater basin. So what this
there'd be a hole there.
it would be, yes. It may not be as pronounced a hole. We would try to utilize the existing slopes, keep the berm heights as low as we can, but yes, there would be some type of embankment there to hold and capture the stormwater.
And it would funnel it out where?
It would basically have a discharge structure, not knowing exactly what the design would look like. Usually it's some type of concrete inlet with different size openings that a pipe would come out and it would basically discharge down to the wetlands and to that little stream that goes through the site.
Where is that relative to your neighbor's pond on that?
But one of the things about stormwater management is that we have to basically maintain the status quo. So we would not be putting out any more water from the site than currently leaves the site now. And we actually are required to kind of take things back to a worst case scenario when it turns out how much water we're allowed to release. So the true reality of it is in the lower frequency storms, which in this part of Pennsylvania, 95% are what's considered 2-year or less storms, most of that water is going to be infiltrated back into the ground. So there'll be no water coming out of the basin of those lower frequency
That whole
storms.
back's wet now.
There are wetlands on the site. They are shown and identified on the plan. Those things obviously have to be avoided, or if you do get into them, then you would have to go through the necessary permitting to
That's
disturb
not
them.
my wetlands.
No.
Where's the, there's another piece of this property that goes out to the back, northeast.
If you flip over to the first page, I think it's what you're talking about.
Page one shows the entire tract.
Oh, okay. So you're talking, and, okay, so you're letting that, all that wetlands, okay.
We're not touching it.
Thank you.
That's all the questions you have, Mr. Morgan?
That was it?
All right. Supervisors, do you have any questions?
I have one addressed, Scott. Have you looked this over? No.
I have not received a copy of the plan.
Okay.
Just let me point out that the land development plan that they're proposing will go before the planning commission,
Right.
has to go through a process.
Yeah, I just wanted to know whether he happened to see
Not
this
yet.
proposal at all.
I have no question.
Okay. So, as all the parties are done, the board doesn't have any more questions. If anybody from the comment wants to briefly, or anybody from the public wants to briefly make any comment, just raise your hand and then state your name and address. Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Lush. I live at 605 White Church Road. And I just want to inform the folks that are here proposing this that I was here, I don't know how many years ago, with other folks when this was switched from agricultural to commercial property. We had all these beautiful architectural drawings of what was supposed to be multiple ball diamonds and everything. And what we're looking at now is a jungle.
Yeah.
And it looks terrible. And I hope we're not going to go through that again, that it's going to be maintained. There's no reason why, that I can figure out, why it's not being maintained now. And other than they're not forced to. Certainly money isn't an issue, and it's a piece of junk.
I would invite anybody to visit our existing facility and take a look at what our facilities look like. We're not fancy. We're very functional, we're very clean. But we are a contractor. But we don't have junk sitting around. I'm the guy who's walking around saying, if it doesn't have a function, you get rid of it. So I'd welcome anyone to visit our existing facilities at 871 Range End Road in Dillsburg. Welcome to walk around the building and take a look at the way things are kept. It'll be done the same way. I've already spoken to an excavator about aesthetically cleaning up the site as quick as we can move forward. We have some things to work out with the potential purchase process. We want to know that we can do it, that you guys want us to do it, and that we're going to be a good neighbor. And then one of the first things we're going to do is clean up a mess.
Good.
Am I able to ask a question?
Yes, just if you could state your name and address.
Alicia Getz, 460 White Church. What hours is this operating? Is it?
7 to 4.
Worried about sleep. Good to hear.
Most of our trucking, loading, the outside noisy part, yeah, I won't say there's not a truck sitting there at 7
I can
every
sleep
now
for
and then,
anything.
but most of the time it's through the day.
Okay.
But our working hours are 7 to 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so at this time, I will say you gave a copy of this plan to the stenographer, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we just identified as applicant's exhibit 1. That was the only plan,
That's
the only
it.
exhibit.
Yes.
All right, so for now, we'll have the record closed and turn it over to the board. If you want, as I said before, you can adjourn to an executive session to discuss this before taking any vote. However, if we do vote, you have to come back out to the public meeting to make a vote.
I make a motion that we go to executive session.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We will go back to all everybody else gets this. All right, we'll reconvene here. After discussion with the 2 supervisors, I believe they're prepared to make a motion, and basically I'll read it for you for your effect, that you would approve the plan conditioned upon obtaining a variance or other relief from the 100-foot setback requirement alluded to by Mr. Hoover, and upon proceeding consistent with the plans, exhibits, and testimony presented at the hearing today.
Do I hear motions to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in
All
favor?
in favor, say aye.
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 And the reason why, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Opposed, no.
The reason why we have to do the setback is because the existing building is only a couple of feet short of the 100 feet. So the zoning hearing board would have to give you approval for that. That's, as far as we're concerned, we're both in favor of it. And looking to grant.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At that point now, we'll adjourn.